Somebody asked me I'd ever get booed or whatever, but I remember coming here, Steve Harvey show. Steve had fought for me. He wanted me to be on his show, and someone else had, I think the network was looking for a bigger kind of character. I was new, and like, I don't know. Steve's like, no, this is my man. He next. Trust me, he got next, right? So I come up and I do the upfronts. I come to New York, and so it's a room full of executives, and everybody got their suits on. And I'm thinking, like, all right, it's New York executives. I'm going to change my set to make these people laugh. And I did. And it was horrible. I mean, I bombed. And the greatest lesson was I bombed. I was on stage bombing. It was, one of them moments, like, what else is going on? Like, hey, how many black mothers out there?
Oh my God.
I'm rich.
Oh, said you went there.
Yeah, you gotta give it up for the ladies.
Oh my God.
Come on now.
That is amazing.
Oh,
Said, I'm dead.
I'm dying, dog.
No, I'm dead, bro.
Steve walks up on stage and starts cussing everybody out. Like, he naming names, talking about, and they dying. And he ain't changed a word. He got the broken English. He's Steve Harvey. Like, he look here. Look at y'all up here.
Yeah.
They dying. And then he came up, he was like, dude, just always be authentic, man. Never go up there and try to fix it for them, because, the people that don't get you, they won't get you. And the people that do, they'll just bit by bit, they'll come around and they'll start to find you. You got to trust that.
Welcome to the conversation of the Mike Muse Show. I am so excited to be in conversation with my next guest. Listen, I'm going to coming in hot. He is my frat brother. And how perfect. I'm just celebrating 25 years in the bond as of this week. And so to have my brother in Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated here, Ced the Entertainer, man. What is happening, brother?
What's up, brother? What's going on? Say yo, man. What's happening?
Yo, baby, yo, man.
Good to see you, bro.
Dude,
always.
I'm such a fan of yours. And I just want to just say congratulations on all your success, but really on the 100th episode of The Neighborhood, which is an incredible feat in this day of episodic television on broadcast, brother.
Yeah. Nobody really makes it that long anymore, man. So this is really special. Of course, just doing this show about, race relationships and how people get along, and for it to last this long, for us to be able to tell this story, I think it resonates with the world that we live in on a regular basis, and unfortunately, both positive and negatively, on how we have to continue to deal with this. But it is about that, and so we tell stories that you can digest and bring into your home on Monday nights, and so we make you laugh and at the same time give you a little something to chew on, man, a little food to chew on.
I was going to say, I actually, and there's no way you remember this, but I was actually at the upfronts that CBS had when they debuted The Neighborhood, and Tiffany over at CBS introduced us.
Okay. That's nice right there.
And so to be able to see it at the upfronts, and to see it right now is just such an incredible journey to where it's come. Talk to us about this journey of being on this episodic television, the way that this is. And the reason why I love it is because it's such a satire in a fun way on suburban living, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's what's really fun about this show is that when it came to me, it took a lot of work to get the show where we wanted it to be. It's one of these things that when you see a show actually make it this far, you recognize what it really took to get here. This show was originally titled Here Comes the Neighborhood, because the white people was moving in. I was like, oh no. So, that was a big no. Then we worked through it, and the network really wanted my vision on the show. And so, we thought about that. And of course, working with the creator of the show, saying that we were able to match up and understand each other, and so we had to recast the pilot. Like these things that people don't think about. Like we had a different white couple living in next door, and so we were able to go back. We shot the pilot, and then was able to go get Max and Beth, and then they came in, and then the show was like, all right, cool. It feels like you put your dream team together. And you got your Pippin. If you're gonna be Jordan, then I got my Pippin. So Max Greenfield is legendary. Of course, Tashina Tina Arnold, everybody's dope, and so we killing it, man. I'm happy for the show and everybody on it.
So Tina Arnold, friend of the show. She's
yeah.
by here a couple of times, and we love her. So you're kind of giving us a little bit, off-air audience. Seth and I were just talking about the sauces being made, even with my show, and so you're kind of giving away some of the sauce being made with how the show came into existence. When that changing and dynamics and moving the puzzle pieces around, how did you feel about that? Just as an entertainer, did you feel anxiety? Did you feel nervousness? Did you feel like the pressure is on? Because it's a team effort, but
well, I mean, one, you're on CBS, you're at Madison, you're at Madison Square Garden, you're at the Staples Center, you own the big platform there is. I mean, of course, Netflix and those kind of networks have come along and made it shine, but major broadcast situational comedy television, CBS, ABC, that's where it go down, man.
Yeah.
And so,
the best
you're right. And you want this show to work, you want it to last. So, of course, when things are kind of like happening, beyond the scope of like what's on the page, you're like, all right, cool, we shot it, it was good, I did my part, I killed it. And they be like, well, your person don't match up to you good enough. We got to make another deal. And, luckily, people were ready to see this show win and fight for it. And so that was great. And so bit by bit, we were able to, really continue to push the narrative, tell great stories. And you do, a lot of things go on behind the scene that people have no idea that you don't get to see on Mondays. That's like, oh man, that was a fight to say those words. Or that was a bit of a struggle to get the network to approve that, this person or whatever. So these things are really real in doing a TV show. And so when you get to 100 of them, you trust that they trust you trust them, and we start to have a relationship that works a little bit more like, like tandem skating at the skate rink. You know what I'm saying? You just kind of locked in, maybe. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
How do you guys keep, what I love about this show is that how you're able to bring topical issues that are happening in our world and our society today, but still make it so palatable, right? Like, is there a fight in the writing room and with the creators and with your team in terms of what to bring forward?
No, that's actually something that has been very important from the beginning of the show. So we don't really have a lot to do there. I mean, if there's something that people feel like they want to push a narrative that's, something that's, apolitical or something too far to one stance or the other, you'll find the network kind of fighting back against those things. But in general, if we kind of, want to touch subject matters, the whole Roe Wade came up, and we kind of approached it from late life pregnancy on the show, where Gemma got pregnant later in life and had a situation where she had to make a choice for her health. But that's the way we approach talking about, do you deal with where's the criminality in that, right? What makes that a crime now, for her to make that choice? Women should have these rights for their body, and that's, of course, you'll have a group of people that are going like, you guys are for promoting baby killing, but that's not what we're talking about. And so these kind of things are the subject matters that we try to approach upon. This season, I sell my business. There are a lot of people, we got a lot of mail about that, because it was weird because, people want you to kind of be stuck. But, what is it when you get later in life and you decide that I actually can make another choice? I actually can dream another dream. And do you do it? I'm afforded the situation. Someone comes along, they want to buy my business. I actually can afford to live another dream right now. I've had this dream, but I work and I go to work and I go boom, boom, and I go, well, one day if I make this kind of money, I'll do this. Okay, where the money is, will you do it? No, do you be fearful that you can't make that change? And so we made that choice, and we got people like, that don't make no sense. Why would you sell your shop? But then we also show that it allows for me to have some growth with one of my younger sons on the show, and we do something unique that's going to lead this series and the show forward.
I'm so excited that you brought that up because there's a connectivity to all this. And I look at that as like the art of the pivot. So I'm actually going to just sit here for a little bit. Yeah. We just had on the Mike Muse show last week, Lloyd Lewis, the widow of our frat brother, Reginald F. Lewis, and the first guy to own and operate $1 billion business. Audience, you guys really reacted well to that. I asked her one day, said, I've known her for a while, and I said, what was that decision like? Because they end up selling off the business piece by piece, right, after he passed away. And in my mind, I thought she was going to be so emotionally invested and so emotionally tied in his company that she would have regrets of selling what he worked so hard to do. And I said, what was that morning like when you got up knowing you're about to sell the last piece of the business off? Like, did you have to meditate? Were you sad? And I wasn't ready for the response. And she said, absolutely not. And she said that the whole goal of the company was to create generational wealth for our family. And the business allowed to do it. And so the business was just a thing. It had no emotional context to it or construct. She said the goal was generational wealth, and that's when we kept our eye on the prize, was that. So there wasn't anything to let it go. And I think sometimes in culture and society, like, we look at these businesses, right, as like almost as identity. Yes. Right. And so I'm really glad that you mentioned that. If you can lean in a little bit more on how you guys were thinking about that character and not allowing that to be the identity of it. Yeah, it started to be. That's a lesson. Yeah, it is, and it's one of those things that I think that we all got fearful, and I kind of noticed that, like, when we're that generation that started to do something a little outside of the system than our parents. Right, my mother went to school. You get a degree, you get a job, and you work at that job until you fall flat and get a watch, and that's it. Right, and then you kind of want that for your kids, and then. So I was doing that same pattern, and then I started to, find myself. I found this self, and I wanted to do stand up and break out and do something different. And I just remember my mother responding to the fact that, one of the first years I made $100,000. She was like, "I'd never seen this before, right? I'd never even, and you start to think like, man, this is the opportunity of changing the narrative in your family, where this is not a deal. This was me choosing to do something, and I want my kids to be even bigger than that. I want them to think greater than that. And so we often find like our first idea is something that we got to hold on to. And that's what we do kind of, in our community. So we take a lot of pride. Like I remember when Motown sold and everybody just was like, man, how could you do it? Yeah. But Bob Johnson was one of the first person I heard to kind of make it make sense when he sold BET. Again, it was something that we as a community take great pride in the ownership. You built this, man. You will never get that up. You will never. But then, like for him to be, qualified as a billionaire at a time where he built a business that was worth $3 billion, you go like, okay, that's the goal. Like, sell it. Yeah. Build another one. Do it again. Yeah. And, and I was like, all right, so we really wanted to show that. And I thought, especially with age too, it was another thing. Like, I'm starting to, at that thing where you approach a certain age where there is a little apprehensive about making new moves. You get over 50, man, and you start to think, should I? You don't have that cowboy spirit that you used to have. Like when you're just young, just go out and just like, I'm going to jump from this thing, I'm going to do that one. And so, especially if something's working, it's a lot of fear of, do I make a new move? And so, I wanted to express that. I wanted to express that in the character and show. And we show that it's not easy. He makes the move, he makes the money, and he doesn't quite know where to go when it's over. Yeah. And then bit by bit, which is really great about having the opportunity to do a long form character, right? This character, 100 episodes. We're going to try to push him to 200, but I can tell the life of a person if I get an opportunity to really to really express it. And one, that's a brand that needs to be done with more African-American television shows in general, where we can tell these longer
arcing stories. We were just laughing about how Grey's Anatomy been on for 450 years, and I don't know how many people died on Grey's Anatomy, but but it's a show that people know, and and so the opportunity for us to tell these great stories is going to be also a part of the legacy of what Sid does and what this Butler family does too.
This is such a unique way I'm looking at this now, right? Like I'm, as you know, I love pulling back social constructs of pop culture, which is why I love film and television and comedy. I really lean into comedy so much because as comedians, I feel like you guys moderate social discourse in a way that makes it palatable for people to understand. I had always looked at The Neighborhood as this great example of like a black family in suburbia, right? And it's rare that we see in this day and age in television in long form a black family just in suburbia, right? Like just in a neighborhood, just being normal, right? Like we just don't see that. And so my hope is always to have more range in that. And so for me, I've always looked at The Neighborhood from that POV. But I think having this conversation with you right now, I wasn't recognizing all the lessons that you guys are actually trying to teach, and then like barriers that you guys are trying to break, right? When it comes of that, and leaning into separating a business or entity as the identity of that. So salute to you. I'm looking at this from a whole different angle, and I'm like, this is why The Neighborhood is so dope. It's not heavy-handed, right?
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean? That's you guys are doing the fine line of that. I'm just curious because I feel like not your character, but you. How have you approached the art of the pivot, and what's allowed you to be so comfortable in it? Because your career, you have multitude of range from different types of roles that you've taken, from film to stand-up to your stand-up routine to now you being on like CBS. Like, how have you navigated that jump? Because that's not easy to break out of your comfort zone, which we're asking listeners of this show to do right now and viewers of The Neighborhood to jump. How did you do that?
I mean, it is one of being patient, and I've never been really a person to measure myself by what's popping, right? I've always been this person that that really loves the journey. I love like the blessings that I get and the opportunity to be on the ride that I'm on. So when I'm doing something, I'm very intentional about what I'm thinking about doing, and then I go and I try to work it. I try to work it slow. And so I always said it's for me, it's always that pot that's simmering on the stove. It ain't never the thing that's cooked in the skillet. It's like, you look on that pot in the back, there's always a little something back there. You can get some beans over mama house. It's going to be good. Hearty. It's going to be hearty, baby. That stew that's sitting in the back, just simmering, you know. You can make you a sandwich real quick, and that's going to be a sandwich, you know what I'm saying?
Can reinvent it.
Yeah. But I do love that fact, that kind of career that's, for me has always been one like, you have moments where it's like on fire and everybody's like loving your name or whatever. But in general, I'm always there. I'm a constant. You can count on me. It's that thing that, I try to take that into my stand up and everything. People know when you spend money to come see me, it's going to be solid. You're going to laugh. It's going to be good because that's what I do. It might not be the latest craze joke thing that's popping off right now. Like, I'm not, and there's guys that are solid like that too. But I mean, when you go into whoever's the it guy of the moment, right? Sometimes we fight for that, or we think we need that light. And so I try not to do that. I remember I switched to television. I had a strong movie career going, and my kids used to come, but all the movies at that time were being shot outside the country, usually because of tax purposes. So we're doing a lot in Vancouver, a lot in, Ireland, a lot, other places, right? You go to Prague, you got it somewhere. And so when my kids were really young, they could come, but then they started to get to an age where they had schedules. And so TV became my better move in order for me to be at home and have some semblance of a fatherhood and a life and being able to, have a regular thing. So I pivoted to television when people thought like why would you do that? I was like, because I want to be at home. I'm not really looking around like I need to be a super movie star. I just want to be like, be able to go get the kids from school sometimes, hang out with the wife, do a schedule, come home and And it's just been a blessing to be able to do multicam television. As a matter of fact, it's the best job ever.
Bro, I was about to say the same thing. I'm like, that is like, I'm not an actor, but I think that if I was to become an actor, that would be the role I would want, is to do episodic television. Like I never ask people financial questions, but like the checks are good, they're consistent, right? Yeah. And once you grab an audience, man, that can last forever, right? And particularly where you landed, right? At CBS. CBS has a great track record of like hanging with their audience, and the audience hanging with
solid audiences that come in day out, and day in, day out, and again, if they rock with you, they let your show build and grow. We was just talking about that over there. I'm actually, I'm gonna throw it out here on your show too, because I want to break the record. Like, I was like, the thing about having a sitcom that's going into its 6th season is knowing that the longest running African American sitcom was The Jeffersons with 11 seasons, and the longest sitcom on CBS was Big Bang with 12. So I need to get 12 seasons out of here. I need to tie Big Bang and beat the Jeffersons, so that's going to be the story of the neighborhood.
Well, brother, anything we can do to help you out, man, we are on that campaign for that to happen. Because what happens is when you break that barrier, you know what I love about television, Ted, is that it normalizes Blackness and Black culture as American culture. I've always been a big believer that Black history is American history. I've always been a big believer that the same audience that goes to see Bridesmaids is the same audience that can see Girls Trip, right? These are just universal themes. Like, our stories are American stories, and there is something about it. I know this might be a little bit strong, but I think there's a rebellious act unto itself that The Neighborhood is on CBS, right? Because of what the CBS demographic skew, right? It's really good to see Black family just existing, right? And having the same complications with their neighbors, like neighborhood, right? Dealing with circumstances, dealing with business, dealing with the income coming into a household, dealing with maternal issues, as just every other neighborhood in Iowa, Nebraska, Oklahoma, right? The audience can see themselves in that. And so I'm rooting for that narrative to come, because that only helps unlock this realization that all of us are all American stories.
Yeah. I mean, that's really, the kind of the original construct of what the show is supposed to be about, and then what we continue to build on, right? And it allows us to be able to tell those stories, and we got a lot of little small things in there. We got the age differences, I raise adult boys on my show. And, a lot of times we used to get in a lot of flack back because the oldest son didn't work or he couldn't find himself. And so we was like, this is a real story, right? This is not no fake stuff. This is my cousins. This is my, and it's not like people don't want to work. They just, again, we live in a world where life was moving and people it was supposed to be a star athlete, got injured, and now he lost. But now he's not lost. But if we could tell the long story, then you don't have to rush that story. You can see, like, this is how people show their resilience. This is how they fight back. This is how they are down and then they're up. This is real life, right? So and so
that's honest storytelling.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there isn't that when you see, like, sometimes white-centered or majority, sitcoms, everything isn't gravy neither, right? Exactly. Like, everyone doesn't come from a two-parent household that went to college and has master's degrees, and their grandparents all didn't go to college with the master's degrees, and those individuals who've had multiple kids, all of them didn't go off to college. Like, there is every family in America. There are families where they have 5 kids. All 5 kids may have gone to college, but that's not always the American story, right? It's like maybe 2 went to college, maybe 1, maybe 4, maybe 0, but they're all existing and
you see
living.
People be successful in different ways, not because of that, right? They have that kind of tenacity or the will to win, and you're like, oh, this guy didn't go to college, but he's the one in the family that that grinded out and did the right thing, and next thing you know, he learned how to buy real estate in the neighborhood, and you're like, okay, this dude cold. Like, you want to be him. You're like, I got a degree, but this man is like buying buildings now. Like, how do you learn to do that?
It's unlocking true stories, and it's showing the story arc, right? When you're able to do long form, it's not only showing the growth of your character, but it's showing the growth of characters on the show. And America can hold a mirror up to society and to see, like, what is possible. With that being said, I'm curious, How has this now informed your comedy? Because I think comedy is in a really interesting space right now.
Yeah.
The different types of comedians that are coming along, and different types of comedians that are becoming successful.
Yeah.
I'm curious in terms of about long form sitcom. What about long form comedy, right?
Yeah.
In the state of long form comedy.
Stand up is one of these things too. Is always morphing and always changing, and it's the kind of thing for me. I love to stay on stage. We're out on tour right now. Straight jokes, no chases. Me, Mike Epps, D.L. Hewley, Earthquake, and D.C. Youngfly. So it's like this combination of the young dude, and then we got these crafty veterans on stage with different style of comedy. And so it's one of these kind of things where when you go out on stage with people who are monsters at it, they can do it. They do it big, each in their headliners in their own right, and then have to kind of follow that up at the end of the night. You know that you have to be sharp, right? You have to. And my main thing is always been observational, always kind of take a look at the world and where it is and let something quirky or weird come out about my perspective on it and just trust that, kind of trust who I am. I try not to change over into whatever the latest craze is. We definitely saw, like with the success of Chappelle's in the last few years, I saw a lot of people try to become these great storytellers out of nowhere, and try to do storytelling jokes, and you just not an orator like him. So, this dude's a wordsmith, and uniquely, he has very unique way of telling the story, tone wise and everything. So you just can't go up there and be Dave Chappelle, man, no matter what. So, and so I always say that, it's about being yourself, locking in, but being honest on stage and being who you are up there. So that's it, man. And then your audience, they gonna find you. They love you. It's somebody out there. It's a big world with a lot of people out here that rock with you. Stay honest, stay truthful, stay on your brand, and then you'll just gather people, man.
Cedric, I did not look at this conversation as a lecture, but I feel like this has been a great lesson and a study, because what has been consistent, the pattern I'm detecting from this conversation is that you have been standing strong on your identity. You've been standing strong on the through line of leaning in just to who you are, whether it's how you deliver your comedy on stage, whether it's the character on The Neighborhood, right? It's just about being true to who you are, leaning into the identity of it. There will be an audience for that, right? And just be proud of who you are in that moment and try not to adjust or pivot no matter what emails or letters may come into the network in order to make change and pivots, but standing strong on that.
Oh man, that was my biggest lesson on the Steve Harvey show, man. I remember that. That was one. Somebody asked me I'd ever get booed or whatever, but I remember coming here, Steve Harvey show. Steve had fought for me. He wanted me to be on his show, and someone else had. I think the network was looking for a bigger kind of character. I was new, and I don't know. Steve's like, no, this is my man. He next. Trust me, he got next, right? So I come up and I do the upfront. So I come to New York, and so it's a room full of executives, and everybody got their suits on. And I'm thinking, all right, it's New York executives. I'm going to change my set to make these people laugh. And I did. And it was horrible. I mean, I bombed. And the greatest lesson was I bombed. And I was on stage bombing. It was, one of them moments what else is going on? Hey, how many black mothers out there?
Oh my God.
I'm rich.
Oh, said you went there.
Yeah, you gotta give it up for the ladies.
Oh my God.
Come on now.
That is amazing. I'm dead.
I'm dying, dog.
No, I'm dead, bro.
Steve walks up on stage and starts cussing everybody out. He naming names, talking about, and they dying. And he ain't changed a word. He got the broken English. He's Steve Harvey. Look here. Look at y'all up here. Yeah. They dying. And then he came up. He was like, dude, just always be authentic, man. Never go up there and try to fix it for them, because, the people that don't get you, they won't get you. And the people that do, they'll just bit by bit, they'll come around and they'll start to find you. You got to trust that. And I was like, he was like, dog, you one of the funniest people in the world. I've seen you do this 100 times. You come on stage, you kill it. I've seen you do this. Why would you go up there and try to be somebody else on a dime? Switch who you are. And I was like, Man, that was crazy. But you start to think like, oh, it's New York. It's the big boy game. I got to be different. I got to.
Yeah.
And went up there and blew it. So ever since then, that was been my thing. I just kind of just take it and like I run. And I really love that about, even the younger generation. I tell a lot of these young guys, that do the social media stuff. That's what's dope about them, man. Like, just don't worry about it. People like, you blowing up over social media and doing these little skits. Don't worry about that. You funny, people clicking on you every day. They love what you do. Be that. Keep rocking.
I couldn't think of a better way to end the conversation than right there. I mean, I think that is just a lesson for all of us, no matter what you do, audience, in your work, whether you're a comedian, whether you work in accounting, you're a real estate developer, or agent, or you're driving a truck right now. It's all about sticking to what works for you.
Yeah, and if you love it, that's it, man. That's it. People always tell you that. Do something you love and then get up and do that every day. If you love it, then,
Yeah.
What's the phrase? If you like it, I love it.
If you like it, I love it.
Man.
Well, so let me tell you how much I love you. Thank you for coming on to the Mike Muse Show. Congratulations on the 100th episode of The Neighborhood. That is a rare feat unto itself these days.
Sir.
I am rooting for you to get to season 11, 12, 13, 14, whatever you choose to stop, brother. I love you, man. Come back soon.
All right, brother. Appreciate you, man.
All right, audience. It's been great. Until next time, I'm going to say, yo.